On behalf of the Edmonton Jewish Federation, thank you for giving us the opportunity to share a Holocaust survivor's testimony with you. The Edmonton Jewish Federation has been bringing Holocaust education to high school students in the Edmonton area for more than 20 years. Thousands of students have attended our annual Holocaust Symposium and have been witness to survivors' testimonies. What you are about to watch is a survivor sharing their personal story. We are privileged and honored to be able to share this video with you, as many of our survivors have sadly passed away or are too elderly and frail to share their stories now. Most of our survivors were just teenagers during the war. In many cases, they were the only survivors from their whole family who were killed just because they were Jewish. These teenagers, somehow, were the only ones who survived and lived to tell their story. When the war was over, Europe was still a scary place for Jews. They weren't welcomed back into their communities, their families had been killed, and many had no place to go. Displaced persons camps had been created, and many Jews went to live there until they could emigrate to places like Israel, Australia, the US, or to Canada. When they arrived, they had to start their lives all over again. They had no family, no work, and there were no social service agencies to help them with their mental health. They were all scarred. So what did they do? They locked their horrible memories away and got on with their lives. They rebuilt themselves, found jobs, started families, and tried to forget about their past. That was until 1981, when Alberta Holocaust survivors learned that there was a teacher in the town of Eckville, Alberta, teaching youth that the Holocaust had never happened. They stood up and finally started to share their Holocaust experiences publicly, despite how difficult and painful it was for them to do. It was so difficult for them to go back to that time, to that hell, and talk about it. They had kept it down for so long, but slowly they started to tell their stories, and we are so grateful. This teacher, Jim Keekstra, who was also the mayor of Eckville at the time, taught his students that the Holocaust was a big hoax and the Jews were money-hungry, evil, and wanted to take over the world. One of the students was at home preparing an essay for class when the student's mom asked what her son was doing. He responded that he had to write a paper about how the Holocaust was a hoax, faked as part of a giant international Jewish conspiracy to control the world, and Jews were child killers who controlled the economy. "Is that what you believe?" asked his mom. He said, "I don't know, but I want to get a good grade." Luckily, the mom complained to the school board, and it was determined that Jim Keekstra had been teaching Holocaust denial to his students for over a decade. To make a long story short, Keekstra was charged with willful promotion of hatred, and he was fired from his teaching position, but did not have to resign as mayor of Eckville. Keekstra then sued the school board, demanding that he be reinstated. He argued that his freedom of expression had been violated, and he had a right to say and teach what he wanted. The case went all the way to the Supreme Court of Canada, where individual rights and freedom of speech under the Charter had to be weighed against Canada's hate laws. Keekstra was the first person in Canada to be charged under Canada's hate propaganda laws. In a landmark decision, the case established the constitutionality of Canada's hate speech, and Keekstra's conviction held. After you watch this video and you hear a survivor's testimony, you become a witness, and it is your duty to never be a bystander. You must always stand up for what is right and just. You will be a witness to history, and it will be your responsibility to share the story that you heard today. It is up to you to ensure that hatred like this does not rear its ugly head. It is up to you to never ever be a bystander. If you hear, see, experience bullying, racist comments, and jokes, you have to speak up and say that is not okay. We hope the experience of hearing directly from a Holocaust survivor helps you learn not only about our shared human history, but also about how we are all responsible for fighting hatred. For if we don't, the consequences are unthinkable.